Hey y'all, I'm Lauren and welcome to Cantina Cast. Today I'm talking about Tales from the Death Star written by Cavan Scott. This graphic novel just recently came out and I felt like now was the perfect time to cover it as a Halloween type of story. It definitely has a little bit of a horror Halloween feeling to it, so I feel like it's the perfect type of read for this time of year. It's still Star Wars. It's not super scary. If I was able to tolerate it, I feel like just about anybody can tolerate it. I'm a huge baby when it comes to scary stuff. I like sort of like stuff that's a little bit darker and a little bit more atmospheric and unsettling. But as far as pure horror goes, I don't handle it well. So there's your disclaimer about the scariness level of this graphic novel. But as far as that dark and unsettling feeling goes, I feel like that this story captured that feeling so well. It's written by Cavan Scott, who I've sung his praises in many of my videos, but I feel like his writing is very fitting for that type of a thing. During this time of year, I love reading stuff that makes me feel like in that Halloween spirit. And that's one reason I really appreciated that this story came out at the time that it did, because it was just perfect for that. This whole month of October, I've been reading stuff that as I mentioned, I'm a baby about scary stuff, but I've been reading stuff that's a little bit darker, got a little bit of that feel to it. And I just feel like this story just went with the rest of the type of stuff that I'm reading really well. So if you're a Star Wars fan, and if you're like me, that during Halloween season, you like reading things that coincide with this time of year, then you should definitely consider adding this one to your Halloween list of reading. Something else that's nice about this story too is if you haven't read a lot of Star Wars comics, or if you're new to Star Wars comics, this story, since it's technically a graphic novel, it's not like part of a big long series that you have to read. This is just a standalone story. You don't have to have read any Star Wars comics to know what's going on in this. It's just a really cool type of scary ghost story that you could read within the Star Wars universe. I definitely recommend this read, especially for this time of year. You could read it any time of year you want. It's not specifically Halloween feeling, but right now I'm all about that Halloween feeling. So if you're like that too, I for sure recommend this one. I really feel like you'd like it, especially if you like exploring like a little bit more of a scary side of Star Wars. I mean, as scary as Star Wars gets. Like if you like Night Sisters and you like Sith lore and you like that type of weird kind of creepy stuff, then you should totally pick this one up. I've really enjoyed exploring kind of a scarier side of Star Wars lore. Albert and I recently covered a short story from the Dark Legends collection, also in honor of Halloween coming up. And I had such a great time just kind of getting into that feeling in the Star Wars universe. It's just sort of a different way to engage with the content. So I totally feel like this graphic novel was in line with that same kind of feeling. So now I am going to start talking spoilers. So if you're planning on reading the story and you don't want to know what happens, now is your time to turn back. This story takes place at the ruins of the Death Star that we see in The Rise of Skywalker. And the way that it starts off is we have a scavenger type of character, like one of those people that lives on that moon, that they want to go and look at the remains of the Death Star. It becomes clear throughout the story that the reason that they're wanting to do this is because they feel like they need to prove themselves to their peers. Kind of like they feel like they're so nervous all the time and people kind of give them a hard time about it. So they're like, if I go out to the Death Star and maybe bring something cool back or look around or have something to report about it, then maybe I will have proven myself and I won't be known as like this scaredy cat. And so when they're about to do that, this mysterious hooded figure shows up, like very Grim Reaper type of vibe to this figure, shows up and says that the Death Star is not a place that you want to mess around with. Like, this is a very dangerous place. A lot of really bad stuff has happened here. Kind of like the implication that, you know, there's bad energy, there's bad spirits. It's dangerous to involve yourself in that type of a thing. And to try to drive this point home, this figure tells the scavenger character a few stories about the Death Star, of things that happened on the Death Star while it was in operation. And so even though it's one continuous story, because it's one character telling another character this handful of stories, the way that each story is broken up, it does sort of have a feel of, it's kind of like a collection in that way. So they're all connected by the reason that these stories are being told to someone, but they're still very distinct stories. Like, they're not really super related to each other than the fact that they all took place on the Death Star. I would say probably my favorite story out of the ones that were told during this part was, there was this one story that was told where one of the engineers of the Death Star is really overworked. They're getting their quotas raised again. And so this guy is desperate. And so what he does is he steals one of Palpatine's Sith relics, which was a ring that when you're wearing the ring, you can raise the dead and the dead can do your bidding for you. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Night Sister Army of the Dead type of concept. But so this guy steals the ring, goes down to the morgue, raises the dead bodies in the morgue, and then you have like a type of a zombie situation going on where because he has the ring, he's commanding the zombies to work for him. And it seems like it's working for a while, but then the zombies start attacking people, as zombies do. And then the situation starts getting out of hand. Then he has so many zombies, he can no longer control them very effectively, even though he's trying, even though he has the ring. The situation's just bigger than him at this point. So Vader gets involved. Vader comes down with his lightsaber. He is slashing all these zombies in half, just absolutely clearing the place out of the zombies. And the engineer is like, okay, like, well, now that's handled. Like, Vader just took care of it. But Vader actually leaves some of the zombies to finish their work, which actually what he means by that is killing the guy that stole the ring. So that was a super fun story. We got Halloween zombies. They look really creepy in the art. Like, the art for this is so cool. We've got Vader absolutely cleaning house. We've got like a cursed Sith ring. It was just the coolest combination of sort of like some classic horror Halloween-y tropes and also Star Wars stuff that we love. Like, who doesn't love Vader showing up and just absolutely just taking care of business? So I loved the combination of those things that we got in this story. And I really liked the way that it felt and the sort of tone that this whole story was written in. And all of the stories that are told by this mysterious figure, they all have that sort of feel where it's a cool combination of just like classic, gothic, creepy horror stuff, plus Star Wars being combined with that. And I feel like it works really well in this case. But despite the warning of the mysterious figure, the scavenger character ends up going to the remains of the Death Star anyway, encounters a monster there. The mysterious figure defends them, so they end up being okay. It's revealed that the identity of the figure is it was one of the characters from one of the stories that the figure was telling. So like, this person actually witnessed some of this stuff going on. And then at one point, Jannah, who is a character from The Rise of Skywalker, shows up and is like, who are you talking to? Like, there's nobody there. And so that was another cool element to it, is that the stories that were being told were also being told by a ghost. So yeah, I really had a lot of fun reading this. I felt like it was just the perfect Star Wars Halloween story. I hope that we get to see more stuff like this because I really enjoyed the tone of this, even though it is a little bit different than the typical classic type of Star Wars feel that we're used to. I think it really worked. Like, I think the fact that it was involving dark side characters, the fact that it's sort of a darker setting within the Star Wars universe, to me, the way that those elements came together, even though it's something a little bit different than what I'm used to, I still felt like it really worked. So let me know if you're planning on adding this to your Halloween reading list, or if you're planning on reading it some other time. I'm interested to hear what y'all think of this one, especially how you feel about that sort of unsettling element being a little bit more prominent in Star Wars storytelling. And thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope that y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.